Shaun, let me ask you about Coughlin, who's going to have a front office position and will not be a head coach. Do you think that's a good fit for his skill set?
Well, Doug, thanks for having me on. I think it's interesting because, I've always thought of him as Coach Coughlin, and now to kind of see him in this different role, I sent him a message and I just kind of said, hey, I'm not sure what I'm going to call you now. Do we just call you Mr. Coughlin? But, look, I think he's got so much knowledge of the game, so much experience. I think it's a great addition for Jacksonville. It sounds like he's already off to a good start with Dave Caldwell. He knows Doug Marrone. So I think there's going to be a lot of good synergy there. The real question, obviously, that you bring up about is, last time he was there, he had complete control. And I think sometimes when you give a coach that much, there's only 24 hours in a day. So to be able to do everything, you got to buy the groceries, you're cooking the meal, and you're cleaning the dishes. I think this time around, he's going to be a lot better at it because he's only focusing on 1/3 of that pie. And I think for him to be able to evaluate the players and look at the roster and handle that aspect of it, I think it's going to help out Doug Marrone and let Doug Marrone just go coach the football team and focus on that. But I think it's also something that he's been working towards basically in the last year. That's basically what he spent a lot of his time doing for the NFL, was looking at a lot of these factors. And I think he was ready to kind of turn that page.
Shaun O'Hara joining us in the Doug Gottlieb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Let's keep it with Giant stuff since they're not going to play any more football games. What would you do with Odell Beckham Jr. in the offseason?
Oh, boy. Well, there's a lot of things that I think Odell can learn from, and experience is always the best teacher. I think he's learned the hard way how to act, how not to act. And really, for him, this is the second year in a row where this whole offseason, we're not talking about his talents on the field. We're talking about his poor decisions, his poor outbursts. Last year, the whole offseason, it was about the whole Josh Norman fracas and how he allowed players to get into his head. Now it's, all right, listen, two things. Number one, are you mature enough to handle the right decisions for you and for your team? And are you not causing a distraction for your team, not only on the field, but on your day off? But number two, look, in the biggest stage of his career, this was the biggest game of his career, he didn't show up. And to me, that's the most alarming thing. You're always willing, I call it the beautiful woman, the beautiful girl example. Look, you're willing to put up with bad breath if she's pretty enough and if she's fun enough. But you take that out of the equation, now all of a sudden those certs start coming out of your pocket real quick.
Here's another kind of beautiful woman analogy, if you will. Everyone wants to marry a beautiful woman, right? Or to have a beautiful woman, but you don't want her to know that she's hot, right? You want her to act as if that she's the girl next door, that she's polite, that she's not entitled. And I think one of the issues is that in addition to not performing in the biggest game of his life in the National Football League, he knows he's that good. He knows he's that talented, kind of like a woman who walks in who knows that she's a 10. You want a girl who's a 10 who thinks she's a 7.
Yeah, and I think, the one thing that I'll say about Odell, and I've gotten a chance to know him a little bit. Obviously, I didn't play with him. I'm in touch with a lot of guys that are on that team. The guy, he busts his butt. And so he's not one of these wide divas that skips out on practice, skips out on workouts, isn't putting in the time after practice, working on extra catching, working on the routes, making sure he knows what he's doing. He's not a thorn in your side from that aspect. These situations that have come up have really just been, it's been an immature kid that's just trying to have fun, and he's not, a lot of it's not with malice. Some of it's not, it actually has good intentions. Some of it, it's not bad intentions, but it's just learning. And I think the one thing he learned this year is, just because it's something that I'm used to doing and it's something that I want to do, it doesn't mean I should do it. And I think he's learned that just because it's not a distraction for him, you could still be a distraction for the rest of your team. Look, I'm sure by the fourth day, everybody on that team was sick and tired of answering questions about Miami and the boat. And while going down to Miami on your off day doesn't affect you on game day, you know what? It's exhausting for everybody else to have to answer questions for it. And I think it showed him that, you know what, there's a time and a place for everything. And now he's got plenty of time to go do whatever he wants. To me, the biggest question mark was just, why would you want to go hang out with Johnny Manziel and Justin Bieber? That bothered me more than anything.